Welcome to Free Pilot Training. Today, I want to show you the 5 biggest mistakes on landings and how to fix them.
Aircraft calling. Stay position.
Bonita traffic, Skyhawk 314 at X-ray, departing 17. Bonita.
I've got Mike with me today. I've had a crush on his daughter now for quite a while. I'm kind of hoping she'll pay attention to me if I let him fly the airplane a little bit.
Airspeed's moving, oil pressure's good, temp's not up yet.
Alright, so the first big mistake that a lot of student pilots make is forcing the airplane down onto the runway. This is caused a lot of times by carrying too much speed across the threshold. The airplane enters ground effect and it doesn't want to touch down. So the airplane just wants to float and float and float. And so what student pilots do is they force that airplane down and it causes a bad landing.
I personally believe that over half the bad landings that students have are because they try landing at high airspeeds. So ideally, you want to cross the threshold right at your landing speed. But as you know, hindsight's 20/20, so if you cross the threshold and you're fast, what should you do? Your initial reaction may be to force the airplane down to the runway, but let's look at some problems that might happen when you do this. Let's say you're Chuck Yeager and you can force the airplane down to the runway and still touch the mains down before the nose will. At high airspeeds, your wings are still creating a lot of lift, which means it's going to be a lot easier for your airplane to bounce and become airborne again. And nobody likes a bounced landing, but you and I both know that we're not Chuck Yeager, so what tends to happen on a forced landing is the nose wheel touches down first. When this happens, a lot of people's reaction is to pull the nose of the airplane back up, which means that you're going to overcorrect for this problem. Because what a lot of people don't realize is when the nose wheel touches down, it also tends to bounce and force the nose back up. Then what happens is you get into this scary cycle where you're porpoising down the runway. This is what we call a pilot-induced oscillation because we're causing the problem here. Now, if you ever get yourself in a situation where you're porpoising down the runway, you should always go around. But remember, most training airplanes are designed with positive dynamic stability. So in an emergency, you could land out of a porpoise if you just relinquish the controls and allow the airplane to settle onto the runway. And once again, I would only do this in an emergency. If I have power available, I'm going around. Okay, so how do we fix this problem? Well, like we said, ideally we cross the threshold at your landing speed. But if you get there and you're a little fast, you can still land. But I want you to keep one thing in mind. If landing distance is a factor, you need to go around. Now you're probably wondering, well, when is landing distance a factor? That depends on a couple things. First, your abilities as a pilot, and then also the capabilities of your airplane. But as a general rule for student pilots, I would say that you need to touch down before you get to the last 2,000 feet of the runway, or just go around. So we're coming in for a landing, and we cross the threshold, and we notice that we're just a little bit fast. So all we want to do is pull that nose wheel just above the mains. And from here, we just need to freeze that attitude. But what a lot of people don't realize is that as the airplane slows, the airplane's nose wants to drop. So to keep that pitch attitude the same, we need to be gradually increasing that backstick pressure on the yoke. And as long as you can maintain this pitch attitude, you'll still have a nice smooth landing, even if you're fast. But always have a go-around point in your mind and use it if you need to. But as you learn to control your airspeed on your approaches, you won't float as much, which means you'll have better landings. But if you make a mistake and you're fast, you've always got this in your hip pocket. But never force that airplane down onto the runway, because floating is way better than porpoising.
Alright, go ahead and run my before landing checklist. Seatbelts on, fuel selector valve on both, flaps are up for now. Mix your best power, throttle set, carb heat off for now, landing and taxi lights on. Everything looks good over there. We'll get the rest to beam the numbers. 1700 is my pattern altitude here. Alright, we're beam the numbers here. 1700 RPM. First notch of flaps. We'll pitch for 70 knots. Carb heat on. Pitch up just a little bit. I'm a little fast. I'm getting blown over. Looks like we have a little bit of a crosswind up here. Somewhere in there, we'll turn base. Bonita traffic, Skyhawk 3148 X-ray, left base 17, Bonita. Alright, we're rolled out here. I'm going to lower some more flaps. So I'm intentionally going to land fast on this one to show you that airplane just wants to float for eternity, and what student pilots do is they force the airplane down onto the runway. I'll just fly 80 knots, show you that we're going to be carrying too much speed. Well, to make it float even worse, I'm going to leave flaps at 20 right now. Oh, sorry, we'll turn final here. Bonita traffic, Skyhawk 3148 X-ray, base to final 17, Bonita. Alright, so I'm intentionally going to land fast, so got less flaps, so that's going to cause part of that. Ooh, got a little gust there. 80 knots. That should about do it. We're going to float like crazy right now. A little bit of a right to left crosswind, it looks like. Oh, let's see, there's 80, so we'll just keep going down, keep going down. I have a good aim point, but then I'm idle power. Whoa, a little gust there. But the airplane just does not want to land right now. It just wants to float and float and float. So what you do is you just freeze that pitch attitude, and the airplane will eventually settle down once the airplane slows down. Carb heat off. Flaps up. Whew. Power. Gusty today. So another big mistake that student pilots make is when they're too high and too fast, they try to slow the airplane down at the same time that they're descending. And this just doesn't work out. In almost every single airplane you fly, the best thing to do is to slow down first and then descend. So this is the root cause of why a lot of student pilots are fast going across the threshold. So let me show you what to do in order to fix this.
Bonita traffic, Skyhawk 3148 X-ray, left downwind for 17, Bonita.
Alright, I'm ready to take over.
Your airplane.
Pilot's controls. Alright, so we're intentionally going to stay high and stay fast. So you can see that the best way to slow the airplane down and descend is to slow down first and then descend. You don't want to try to do both at the same time. That causes a lot of problems. So I'm going to beam my touchdown point, so I'm going to intentionally stay high and stay fast right now. This is a big problem. Students get over here and they forget that they're beaming the numbers, so they're just trucking out here without a care in the world. Next thing you know, you're way high. Lower a couple flaps here and then turn base. Okay, so I'm noticing now that I'm way high. But at this point, I don't know what to do. I'm 80 knots, I'm way high. Well, let's go ahead and lower some flaps. I mean, I could use power to my advantage, but I'm forgetting to do that right now. Because you're just getting frustrated. We're getting high, we're getting a little slow, so I'll pitch down a little bit here. Alright, roll final, we got full flaps in. So now, we're high, and we're fast. Bonita traffic, Skyhawk 3148 X-ray, base to final 17, Bonita. Alright, so I am going to pull the power. So the key here is to slow down first. So pitch up to catch your speed, and then pitch down. We still want to keep that idle power, so you lose that airspeed first is the key. Now, if I notice that I'm not going to make it, that's when I can slip the airplane. A little slow. Pitch down. There we go. And now I've caught my glide slope now, so I can start feeding that power back in. Alright, landing's assured, idle power. I'll just drive it down. Whoop. Alright. Flaps up. RP'd off. Power. Alright, so another big mistake that student pilots make is flaring the airplane too high. So this isn't necessarily a problem unless you just freeze that and you don't do anything about it. If you recognize that you flare too high and then you recapture it, that's fine as long as you have plenty of runway. But if you flare too high and you just hold that and you just hold it and you hold it like I've seen in the past, what you're going to have is you're going to have a stall, you know, a little high, and then you're just going to plop that landing in, and that can be kind of fun. But the key is to recapture. And once again, if you need to go around, go around. But if you don't fix the problem, you're going to plop in and it's going to make for a rough landing. There's our turn. We'll go ahead and turn. Bonita traffic, Skyhawk 3148 X-ray, left base 17, Bonita. Alright, rolled out on base here. Lower that second notch of flaps. Doing everything right now. This is the key in a good landing, is getting a stabilized approach. We're going to be on glide slope. Recognize we're high. We pull that power and start a descent. Sorry about that.
Oh,
I might be a touch high. I'll lose a little bit of power here. To correct that, catching it, put that power back in. I'm going to go ahead and lower the rest of the flaps. Got full flaps now. We got carb heat on. Bonita traffic, Skyhawk 3148 X-ray, base to final 17, Bonita. All right. So we're gonna cross the threshold right at our 60 knots, just like we're supposed to. We're doing everything correct. We're just gonna flare high, which is not good. So a couple things you can do to fix that. If you don't fix it, you're gonna have a plopped-in landing. Oh, it's tempting to not flare high, so it's tempting. Alright, so landing's assured. Now I'm flaring high. I know I'm flaring high. If I don't correct this, I'm going to stall. So like that was a plopped in landing right there. Alright, so if you do flare too high, you probably need to add just a touch of power. And that's going to allow you to float just a little bit longer so you can re-accomplish that flare. No big deal. Just keep in mind, if you don't have enough runway, go around. Okay, so this time we're going to flare high. And then we're going to add a bump of power in to fix it, and then we're just going to recapture and make a nice looking landing. Landing's assured, idle power. Oops, I flared too high. Bump of power, and then we'll capture. RP, flaps.
I just want to point out this head nod from Mike real quick. I'm thinking I might have a chance with his daughter after all.
Power.
Either that or he's getting jostled around by these bad landings.
Alright, so the next problem is probably one of the most common ones. It's when you flare the airplane too much, and this causes what we call a balloon. Everyone struggles with this in the beginning. It's because you're over-flaring the airplane, and it basically just takes off again. So the key here is to freeze the landing attitude and not allow the nose to touch down. That's all we care about. We're not trying to do some magical maneuver. And what happens is you just pull gradually and gradually and gradually more to keep that pitch attitude frozen like this. We'll turn early. Bonita traffic, Skyhawk 3148 X-ray, left base 17, Bonita. I turned early, so I'm going to get all those flaps in when I can. We can start that descent. All the flaps are in. Pitching for 70. It's helping us because we got a headwind this direction. That's why I can get down so quick. Bonita traffic, Skyhawk 3148 X-ray, base to final 17, Bonita. Alright, so we're going to balloon the airplane this time, and we're going to recapture. Takeaways here is that you basically do the same thing that you do in a high flare. You just put in a bump of power and recapture the round out and flare. Ideally, you don't want to balloon the airplane, but if you do, then you can fix it by this solution right here. A little fast, a little high, a little correct, but we're going to balloon on purpose here in just a second. Might be a touch high. I'm going to slip just for a second. There it is. Landing's assured. Oops. I ballooned. Bump of power. Recapture. Idle power. Heartbeat. Flaps. Power. Alright, so the last big mistake I have for you today is landing in a crab. These can be some of the most scary landings that you can experience. So the big picture is that you want the nose of the airplane to be aligned with the direction of travel. So to do that, instructors teach students to look ahead at the end of the runway. Put that nose up there and just use the rudder pedals. I give you full permission to not look at the slip skid indicator during this maneuver. You don't have to look at that in this case. We're looking at the end of the runway to make sure that the nose is aligned with the direction of travel. And so one thing that I like to do is I have the student use the rudder pedals while I fly the airplane. And this gives you a good idea of where the nose of the airplane needs to be on landing. Alright, turn to left base. Bonita traffic, Skyhawk 3148 X-ray, left base, 17, Bonita. Alright, I've got Mike working the rudder pedals. He obviously doesn't need the training, but he's my foot model today. I just want to show you that when you're having trouble figuring out what you need to do with the rudder pedals, you can have your instructor land the plane one time while you fiddle with the rudder pedals. It's going to make all the difference in the world on your landing. Especially if you're struggling with landing in a crab. And the biggest times when you're going to have these situations is in like really bad crosswinds and stuff. Bonita traffic, Skyhawk 3148 X-ray, base to final 17. Alright, so I'm making my normal landing here. Mike's working the rudder pedals. As you can see, we got a slight right to left crosswind, so he's having to put a little bit of left rudder in because I've got the wing low on the upwind side. A little fast, I'm going to bleed that power off, and he's just keeping my nose aligned. Biggest problem is going to be down here at the bottom because we're just trying to align the nose of the airplane with the runway. A lot of students start looking down at their inclinometer. You don't need to do that. You just need to look at the end of the runway and align the nose. Alright, he's working my rudder pedals, and now he's just aligning the nose for me. There we go, a little more right rudder. Perfect. Beautiful. That's what you do when you have trouble with those rudder pedals. I've got everything now.
Yeah.
And in case you're wondering why I chose Mike to be my foot model today, he just so happens to be my father-in-law, who just so happens to be my first student, and also just so happens to own half this plane. So there you have it. So if you don't know what's broke, you can't fix it. And so that's the whole purpose in today's video. Identifying the problems and being able to fix the problem on landing. So today you've got 5 tools in your tool belt to use, and next time you go out and practice those landings. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, smash that like button for me. I'd really appreciate that. And also, if you haven't already subscribed, please consider doing so. Bonita traffic, Skyhawk 3148 X-ray, base to final 17. Bonita.